lying on the marble, the doorman that knew my dad's name, sitting in the tea lounge, listening to the harpist, eating a scone, drinking some hot chocolate, and looking at my dad and said, Dad, this is what I want to do. And he said, no, this is what you want to feel, not what you want to do. Those two things are different. And I was puzzled by that, but I listened. It's what I wanted to do. And literally I would talk about it all the time and beg to go to hotels as a child. And when we did go to hotels, I would wander around aimlessly just because I was enamored by everything. And so it became time to go to college. And my dad said, I said, I'm going to hotel school. And he said, okay, this started when you were 5. If you want my help with college, you'll find a place that actually you can get a business degree and a hotel degree. I chose my school based upon that. I graduated, and 6 days later, I started at that Ritz-Carlton in Boston where I had said I would start work. So the Ritz-Carlton was a tiny company when I joined it. We had 6 hotels. When I left, almost 28 years later, we had 99. So, I grew up with the brand. The brand grew up with me. I was around the table for most things. I helped bring the brand into Asia. I lived in Asia for a decade and opened Hong Kong, Singapore, Osaka, Seoul, Kuala Lumpur, Bali. I'm missing a few, but you get the picture. I think I was a GM 8 or 9 times. I ran a bunch of our flagships, became an area vice president. My region was Montreal down through Atlanta. And I'm living in New York. I'm running Central Park. I've got a great region. And Central Park had a wonderful team. And we won Best Hotel in the United States, number 4 in the world. And there was some article written about me in like Delta In-Flight magazine or, Departures or something like that. And probably because of my gender, because there wasn't that many hoteliers that were written about that were female. And Bob Iger, who was CEO of Disney, traveled commercial that day. I've never known that man to travel commercial, but on that day he did, picked up the magazine, read my story, called Bob Chapek, who was his number 2 at the time, and said, our parks are best in the world, our resorts aren't, go out and get her. So I got a cold call from Disney in which I said, Disney, do you even have hotels? And I'm a luxury girl. What do you actually want with me? But I joined Disney and I took over their hotel portfolio. It's a matrix company, so it sounds harder than it is. Yes, it was big in scale, but I had my lane for sure. And then anything having to do with affluent consumer. So Golden Oak, the Secret Club, Club 33, VIP guest tours. And I did that for 7 years. And I'm at my 7-year mark, and I realized that my next step for Disney, if I wanted to continue to grow beyond a vice president, was I was going to have to run a park, and I'm not a park girl. So I just couldn't imagine. I just couldn't imagine suddenly I'm running the Magic Kingdom. That wasn't going to happen. So I made a list, and the list was, what are all the things that I wanted to do and hadn't done yet in the hotel space? And one thing kept coming up several times on that list, and that was I wanted to run an independent. And so I found Alex. Alex found me. Alex is the creator and founder of the Fifth Avenue Hotel, Lenore Hospitality. He brought me on to be his COO. And together we opened the Fifth. It became the most awarded independent hotel in the world. 2 Michelin keys, 50 best restaurant, 50 best hotel, 50 best bar, blah, blah, blah. All the awards that you want to win, we won. He built a beautiful little jewel box, and it was just fun to run it, right? So that showed in what we accomplished. And I was having a ball. I love New York. I'm a New York girl. I've got that energy, right? So I was having a ball. And all of a sudden, this woman shows up in the lobby, and she said, hey, can I buy you a drink in the portrait bar? You're like, I've got something to do right now, but if you're still here when I get back, I'll buy you a drink in my bar. It would be nice to meet you. Well, she was sent by Dart, who owns Evermore. And basically we sat down and she said, we really need 3 things in the person we're looking for to take on the presidency of Evermore and grow this brand. Number one, we need to elevate everything we do, and we need a luxury person. Okay, check. Number two is that we really would love someone that knows the Orlando market and knows how to do things at scale. Okay, Disney, check. But number three is the hard one, because I can find a number one and a number two, but number three is we also want someone that knows how to run an independent, because those are just scrappy as hell, and not everybody from a brand knows how to do that. And I'm like, well, there you have it. So the interesting part about this story is that when my first or second week at Disney, I was boarded on this little bus, and we came and we toured this land. And we wanted this land really badly. Like, I was imagining what hotels that I would put on this land. We didn't get it. Someone outbid us. And I lived in a community last time I was here, just past Evermore. It's called Keens Point. Oh, and I would pull over sometimes, walk up the berm, and look out to see what they were building. And literally, the minute Evermore opened, I flew down, stayed at the Conrad one night, walked to the bay, and was like, okay, I get it. They did a nice job. And then went back to my life. So it's sort of this weird full circle moment for me to be here running Evermore. So here's the thing. Independents are incredibly rewarding because there's nobody else's book except for yours. You're writing each chapter in that, and that's very exciting. Now, I have to tell you, I worked for 2 publicly traded companies, so I had to take off the golden handcuffs in order to do that. So, I mean, stock's not in my future any longer. But you work really hard to get to a point where you can go, now I get to do what I want to do. And this is, without the 5th, this wouldn't have happened. I had to give up New York for Orlando again. That was sad. But at the same time, it's a pretty good gig with a ton of potential. So there's the story.
Thank you. That is fantastic. Really quick, if I may, just interject. You must have worked with Josh Tomorrow during that time?
Of course.
Correct.
Yeah, so, I was a direct report for a little while.
And so I'll tell you just a quick story because I think you might find this humorous. I used to work for a small company. The ones they ended up creating a product called Hot Sauce. So maybe you've heard of them,
of course.
So we were trying to land Disney as a customer for a very, 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 very long time. And I get a phone call one time in 2015 from a consultant, and she says, "Hey,
Marie Bay-Lallemande."
100%. A phenomenal woman, by the way. Wow. And she calls us up. She goes, "Can you come give a presentation in Paris?" And I'm like, "France?" So I flew to Paris, France, to meet with people from Orlando, and it wasn't lost on me how interesting this was. But to your point, the concept was, we want to do luxury, but we don't know what we're doing. And for us, we were incredibly proud. We were at the George Sand, the Peninsula, and the Mandarin Oriental, all within walking, and each of them were staying somewhere else, sharing the experience, and we had to come in and talk to them about what we think is part of that from a housekeeping standpoint anyways.
So I joined right at the start of 2016. Hot Sauce was not installed yet.
No.
So I'm the person that ran the team that created havoc for you.
Yes.
Right? Like, that was my whole role, was creating havoc with Hot Sauce.
Fantastic.
But I have to tell you, so if you think about it, Hot Sauce had, thousands and thousands of hotels. We had 32,000 rooms.
Yeah.
However, I needed to be able to slice the data in really different ways. So where you had, 100 hotels in a city, they didn't care what each other were doing. Right? And suddenly I was like, I want this calibrated by my moderate resorts, my value resorts. You remember all this?
100%.
My deluxe resorts.
100%.
How does that feed? I use that data so implicitly. Things like extra blanket in a room sounds so small.
Yeah.
An extra blanket in a room. However, the data from Hot Sauce showed that was my biggest request across all categories.
Yep.
Putting in extra blankets in 32,000 rooms was $11 million. So it wasn't a cheap enterprise, right? You've got to get enough stock. You have to put it through your laundry. Does that work? But the labor we saved was $26 million on fulfilling that. So we used Hot Sauce in a really great way that they still use today.
Let me tell you, it was amazing. It was really cool because I remember they took all the data and they put it in with something at the time was called Tableau, that later Salesforce bought. And I was looking at some things going, wow. Even like we know people, we would tell people, hey, you should think about it this way, but we never actually saw somebody do it because I think people don't have time sometimes.
100%.
Right? So I have a question for you as it relates to this. So when we're here, by the way, and I think this is an amazing use case for this. Being at a sales kickoff here, I feel like I'm in kind of Melrose Place. Like a little Melrose Place thing going on. And I go upstairs. I went all the way to the third floor. I did go down the slide, by the way. Yeah. And then we messed with Aaron. We told him his room was on the third floor, and he didn't realize it was a joke. But I'm here, and I'm picturing, like, every one of us has had a conversation. Man, I wish our kids were here. Man, I wish this was here. But this feeling of having a hotel, but having this room right here, this is exceptional. Yeah. So to that, and I have a question for you. What is it? This is multi-generational. I'm assuming this is kind of the persona that you're going after from a business standpoint. The question that I have put together for you is, how does this change your approach to service, or does it?
It changes it completely. So first of all, there's 3 types of people that we look for selling, particularly our homes, but our flats too. And the first one is multi-gen, right? It just fits. Second one is golf groups, friend groups, all of that. And the third one is meetings like you're having today. So I will just tell you that when I joined DART, we had our first board meeting literally 3 weeks after I joined. So I knew no one. And suddenly I'm sharing this 11-bedroom house with the board that I'm about to present to the next day. Oh. And I have to tell you, it was so great because I walked out of there knowing them as people, not just having a presentation. You know, after the presentation, we came back, we had a bottle of wine, we had time together. And literally, I felt so connected right off the bat because of that. And so when you think of that, if I'm at a Ritz or the Fifth or even at Disney, I know the person, but here I need to know the group. And those are 2 different things, because a group moves very different than a couple, or even a small family, right? And so it's a new way of providing service that we're still trying to figure out, right? I think we're 75% there, but literally it is a new way. And so today on the phone call that I had, I actually said on that phone call, one of the things that's really important for me is you using our personas as it pulls through the system. And this is why, because I need to understand you as a group. Are you a family that has little ones? Are you a family that has teens? Are you here for a golf weekend? Or are you here for this? Because the service I provide you is going to be very different. I can kind of get away with providing the same service for people at a Conrad, which we own, right?
Sure.
But literally for groups of this size and scale, I need to know all of this information to make it right. It's actually the fact that you could use personas is one of the big reasons that we hired you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're very
excited. Because you weren't afraid of it at all. You were like, of course we can do that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'll tell you something. One of the things that happened as we walked in here, you see the pictures and you read a little bit about it, like any other person. I travel 130 nights a year, so I'm always paying attention to these kind of things. And I travel both. I do business and pleasure all the time, and I mix them up, and I did it way before it became a term. What was interesting is just watching the dynamics, and I'll share you the dynamics that we've seen here thus far. First of all, we loved having an adult fridge, very cool. We loved having it stocked up with things, incredible. But then I started saying, wow, we missed on a team building opportunity. Like, we totally missed on one. Because everybody here, like, I love cooking steaks, and I would have loved to say, I'm gonna make steaks for everyone that's out here. Yesterday, our resident Jenga master, Ellie here, was like, are we gonna play Jenga or what? And let me tell you something, I found out a couple of things. Number one, excellent Jenga blocks, by the way, by Evermore. Top quality, yes, we all agree. The other thing, incredibly competitive bunch here, and incredibly good at Jenga. Let me tell you something.
I've got videos to prove it.
We have some great Jenga players here. So I started thinking about, because as you think about personas, I don't think there's a brochure that I can read that's going to explain that to me. So I think as you capture these stories, it's going to help you start presenting that to the market. I think it's gonna
100%.
be key. Yeah.
Because it's those moments in between that matter, right? And right now I
Totally.
tell a very flat story. And so it's really the moments in between that I need to capture.
This is great. And I see how we can help you on the initial journey to get in here, a little complicated, right?
Yeah.
Once I gave them, for example, my license plate number, awesome. Just, whatever. See you later, right? Great. As I walked in the morning, the other thing based on what you just said that I love, so I have early risers here. I have Mr. Coffee right over there. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. And what I liked about this is we have different genders here. And everyone, does anybody feel uncomfortable? Nobody feels uncomfortable. It feels like you're in your own
Isn't it
hotel room
remarkable?
somewhere.
Right?
The third floor is not. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Fred. I still can't believe you fell for that. So now let me ask you, because I put this together for you. So beyond technical specs, pricing and whatnot, what's some intangibles? So I'm so proud of this partnership. Oh, and I do owe you an apology. So Tristan Gadsby is our CEO, and he got called away by something for HFTP, so he's only here 24 hours. But I'm going to tell you what happened. The same thing I think happened to all of us. He got here and he's like, wow, that we just see, this is something that more and more people need to just know it's here. And I think people know the name, but again, I don't think they realize the gravity of it.
Yeah, and I don't know that we do a great job marketing the gravity of it because we're flat and we kind of look mid-market. Like it looks like Shamu's going to come out of that lagoon right now. So we need to fix that, which is what we're working on now with a new agency that we brought in. But, the timing couldn't be more perfect because all these things will align, which will be great.
Awesome. So then how do you think about a business partner? When you're thinking about a business partner, what are you looking for? What do you want them to do? What's your expectation?
First of all, this is such an innovative concept that was built. It truly is. And it was on the right side of what's happening in travel today. So the number one trend in travel is group travel, just like this, whether it's a group that's working together and you're having a retreat, or it's multi-gen, or it's friend groups. If you listen to Amex, to Virtuoso, to Jack Ezon, any of those are saying this is the number one trend in travel. And 2026 is the year that door is opening. So this was actually invented, shovel and ground, 7 years ago, but thought about 8 years ago, where people were talking about it, but it wasn't the number one trend. And so I have to have someone that's ready to walk on the edge with me, and someone that can be truly innovative. I work for independents now for a reason. I don't think I'll ever go back to a brand. And that is because we can do things that are so different. We're not constrained by a rule book. And so we can actually just forge forward and do our own thing. And so what I loved about you all is that you seem to want to do that too. It seems like it's part of your DNA, that you don't just look and go, this is our standard box, just plug in. I never had that conversation with any of you. So literally that's key. Number two is we need to communicate. Technology's hard. So it changes all the time. We know we're in this huge influx moment and we're all making a bunch of bets. And so we just need to be connected about what's possible now, what's the cadence, how together do we remove all the friction points that you saw, right? All Absolutely. Of that needs to go, because friction in travel is the killer today, right? That's the worst thing that could happen. Is travel needs to be really easy, because it's already been really hard just getting here. Right?
Yes.
And so completely. I look for partners that are innovative, that are in it with me, and that are willing to take the leap and think beyond what we're thinking today. That's really important. I look at my technology partners and I go, you need to push me. not just the outward, but what could we do that's beyond what I've even thought of? So I'm going to give you an example, but how do you now take that to the next level? And I look at all of my partners that same way.
So you want to be, in other words, I guess if we condense this, you want to be challenged.
100%.
Hey, I was thinking X, and perhaps you haven't considered Y.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Very cool. Now, your background is I like this question. When I sent it to you, I was happy when I wrote this down, because you have to understand the background to anticipate people's needs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, I'm blown away when you mentioned like Ritz-Carlton when it was 6 properties. I can imagine in that growth and everything else, and then I'm sure we won't record this part, but it's like, oh, but then Marriott came on. I don't know. But I've heard that from Ritz people, so I get it. Now, you have to anticipate guest needs, right?
Yeah.
So anticipating guest needs are important. How do you think this applies to creating wow moments even here? Do you see it the same way? How do you see that?
I'm going to answer your first comment first.
Please.
So first comment about Marriott taking over Ritz-Carlton. I was there long before Marriott took over. Ritz-Carlton wouldn't be in business if Marriott didn't take Ritz over. So I learned to be a hotelier from Ritz-Carlton, from Horst Schulze. He's my mentor, still is. That's how I learned to be a hotelier. I learned the business of hotels from Marriott, and those are 2 different things. And the fact that I actually have both of those
is why you're here, right?
Right?
And it's why you're here right now.
100%.
Right.
100%. So taking a look at anticipation, anticipation of needs is a term that we used before personalization or uber personalization were taglines. So that's really what it was. I'm going to try to know you so I can personalize something for you. Personalization today is table stakes. And, we're coming into an age of uber personalization where, we'll know from connected devices the temperature your house is at, and right, that will be set by the time you walk in the door. I have to tell you that coming into Evermore, we didn't necessarily have that edge of understanding what anticipation meant. And we needed to blow up a couple departments in order to get to a spot where we could put that into place. And I'll tell you the 2 that we did this with. Number 1 was reservations. And so number 1, now I have reservation sales agents, and they're specialized in selling, as they should be. And then I have the pre-arrival agents or pre-arrival hosts. And the pre-arrival hosts get all the information about you and your family. They connect the persona. So now the persona helps me anticipate what your needs are. So they connect that. We've got comments on just about every guest. And from the rooms that we give you and accommodate, example, when we spoke, I said, I think you'll be happier in a house. Let me do that for you. Let me upgrade you in a house. That's anticipation of needs, right? And so now we also did the same thing for the front office. And so concierge honestly was really static. You're in this resort hotel that doesn't, I'm not in New York where I needed my Clay Dora concierges lined up. But here, what I really needed is an arrival host that many times could either greet you at the door or use the app or texting solution to greet you so that we could get via persona the right information to take care of you. I require that those hosts do at least, by host, 3 to 5 surprise and delights every day, which is solely based upon anticipation. And so literally anticipation or personalization is really what separates luxury from non-luxury today. That's it, right? It's that simple to look at that. There's some mid-tier that might have a nice lobby, whatever, but it's that little tweak in service that makes a huge difference.
And especially where you're going to take with you. What is the memory that person's going to take with you? Yeah. I think about that all the time, and I share it with people. I have so many moments where something happened that I wasn't expecting. And I think a lot of that starts at something, and I would love to get your feedback on this because I don't see this enough in the industry, which is tell me why you're coming here.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to even ask it
Yeah.
anymore at all. I mean, there's like a little switch sometimes, like you're booking a flight on American or something. It's like, is this business or this? Or my favorite is when you're on like a hotel's website and you don't even have a place to put the other guests, which I always have a little joke about that maybe you've heard me say, which, you know, my idea, Mother's Day's coming up. So by the way, happy Mother's Day to you in case I forget to say it. And Vicky and Ellie. So not you, Fig. So it's interesting. It's interesting to me to see how you need to provide a moment of something that people can remember. And when they remember that, they won't remember the price. They won't remember anything else about that except the way it made them feel. So this is what we're always shooting for. Yes?
Well, 100%. When I do orientation to all the new hires, I talk about when you leave a hotel, you leave with two things. You leave with a memory and you leave with a bill. And that memory better outweigh that bill every single time. I'm a great example because my father took me to afternoon tea when I was 5 to a hotel that became my calling. And so there's a great example of how those micro moments can change the course of your life because of a memory that's instilled. And that's really important. By the way, you just said something so important to me because, yes, in the pre-call, we're asking, I don't have a place even on the new website to ask that question. Now I do. There you go. Look what I'm walking away with.
Yeah, it's a very good idea. So I want to ask for our team, just for advice. I mean, we were here together 24 hours, and I'll open for some questions for everyone, if you don't mind. What's some advice that you can give us, right, to our team about moving a relationship to make it not transactional, but be actually transformational? Is there any advice, any insight? And by the way, I love what you touched on. I like that you talked about the hotel business and the business of hotels. I have this conversation often with my team. I'll sit down once in a while. I'm very grateful to a previous mentor for me as well, and CEO that I had at a company I was with previously, Jeff Hiscox, who said to me, he sent me over to an investment conference. He goes, go to this investment conference. And I'd never been to an investment conference. And I think there was maybe one other provider. And I saw the magic of the bankers, the landowners,
Right?
all the brands fighting over each other. And I ask 1,000 questions. Like, what happens here? What's going on? There's like, well, if this guy wants to open a property and he's opening without a brand, the bank is going to say no. So I was like, wait a minute, let me go talk to the bankers about this. And the bankers will give me their perspective. The consultants will give me their perspective.
100%.
And that part of the deal was really interesting. And one thing that we have to tie in sometimes that happens is that I'm speaking to an operator here, and I don't know how far it goes. What do they need to go tell their owner? So if you have advice for us or feedback along those lines, or anything you want to take it to, what can we be doing to help move a business forward and connect with you, not just transactional, but as a business partner in that manner?
So, there's a few things. Number one is that even today on the call today, technology to technology, we're speaking the same language. I come in and speak a different language, operator language. And my purpose on being on that call was to go, here's the 3 things that really matter. Funny enough, we've already talked about 2. One of them is personas and one of us is friction upon arrival, right? So literally those are, table stakes to me that really, really matter because I think it's going to change the game for us. But in looking at it, I think listen to the operator because they can tell you what's going on today. And that's important. Listen to many times above property because they actually can say, here's what I'd like for tomorrow. And an operator doesn't always have that lens, right? They're going to tell you, here's what's going on today. And in the mind, it's here's what's going to be going on 5 years from now. We all know that's not going to happen, right? It's going to be a very different world. When you get into the business hotels, they're making a deal today for something that probably won't even be out of the ground for the next 5 years. So you better be thinking way over here for you to remain relevant when your doors open. So these are very different conversations. And unfortunately, you need to be able to have each one in order to truly piece together what's best for the hotel, the asset as a whole, right? And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, because you're talking to three different people. The technology people are trying to listen to the operator, but they're really talking about how systems can connect. The operator saying, here's what makes my job hard, right? And then the owner and above are going, but here's what I need you to do for tomorrow. And so there are three different parts where you can win, is be able to have three conversations. Because I will tell you, most of our suppliers, most of our partners cannot. I can get one of the three. It's very hard to get three of the three. And so if you're able to do that, I think that gives you a leg up.
Thank you. I'll open for questions here for the team. Fig, and then Aaron, please.
Yeah, just I think very much dovetailed into what we were just talking about. Elizabeth, thank you for coming again. A beautiful property, and I appreciated your comments around partnership and the fact that Alliance was one that was willing to kind of go outside and color outside the lines.
Yeah,
without
that's exactly it.
Concern. My question is really, and again, it is somewhat subjective. Obviously, you are the president. You have an extremely busy inbox. But what we fail sometimes, we have a lot of passion for the product. We have a lot of passion. We know that it's the right solution for a certain brand or certain group. But how do we rise above the noise of everyone else that's trying to attack you and sell you rugs and teacups?
Great question. Because
again, when we do come with passion. We're trying to kind of, explain what it is we do, and we do a lot of things, right? So there's a pretty broad group of products. Sounds like everything that you've said is we already had the conversation. Somebody brought it to you, or maybe you looked into us, or however that was. But if you're not looking for a specific product, how do we crack that on a whole? Right? Does email work for you anymore, or does, is it more based on, meeting you at an event or a meeting and, having a 5-minute conversation? What works best for you?
Okay, let me answer this in a couple ways. First of all, email works, but a conversation is even better. So if you can do a conversation and then an email, then I have a face with a name, then I'm more interested in reading the email as opposed to just scanning the email. So you all were already talking to Evermore before I got here, right? So you were having those conversations. So here we are, and I'm just going to be very blunt.
Please.
Here we are in our very first call, and the very first call was, you remember, was, hey, let's talk about the fact that we can help you do folios. Well, I was like, why the hell do I ever want to do a folio? What I'm trying to do is remove every friction point. And I've been here a minute and a half, but people are telling me it's a problem, but I just pulled the data. And the data says that less than 1% of my guests are requesting to actually charge something to their room. So why do I want to even do that? So I remember I stopped the call.
Yes.
And I said, here's what we need to do. My team needs to go back and reevaluate what we want to do. Because if that was our mission, wrong mission, right? That wasn't your fault. We just were on the wrong mission. And so it was really interesting. I'm so glad it happened because I was able to turn the ship away from the dang folios, right?
100%.
But we ended up coming back to the same conclusion.
Yes.
And literally, no matter how that call went, it was an uncomfortable call, right?
Oh, no,
it was an uncomfortable
100%. 100%.
We made it like 3 minutes into the call.
Yeah. It was pretty fast.
Yeah, this was a perfect case of stakeholders not aligned on the mission.
Yeah, it's true.
100%.
That's 100% what it was. However, the good news is that I was intrigued enough about what you said, and I had heard your name from the work you did with Mandarin and others. And so I kept thinking that you're still a partner, even though the solve that we initially spoke about was the wrong solve. And so, we put some time before we came back together again. My team was like, well, maybe we need different partners. At the same time, I kept researching you. I was calling people, etc., and everybody was telling me how great you were. And so coming back to the table with now exactly what we needed, that, right? And the fact that now I needed a texting solution and you were able to rapidly give me that, essentially what led to this partnership. And so there's two parts here. Number one is when you hit a speed bump, it's okay, right? Sometimes speed bumps matter. In this case, it allowed me and my team to go back and actually really recalibrate, because we would have completely gone down a rabbit hole and we would have hated the product we got because we were solving the wrong problem. And number two is that, you know what, your reputation is really important. And so there's hotel world is so connected. We all know each other, right? We've known each other for years. And so literally we pick up the phone and we talk to each other and we ask the questions, do you like the product and do you like the partnership? It's not just that you like the product, it's you like the product and did you like the partnership? And the good news is that every call I made, and I made, I don't know, 5, 6, everybody said both. And so literally, although my team was like, hey, look at this one. Why don't look at this one? It's cheaper. I'm like, I don't actually care. I mean, I want the best for this. I don't want the cheaper version of this. And you all, with everything you had done in your past, like you just stacked it in your favor, because not many people have that amount of luxury hotels under your umbrella, right? Like it's just so stacked in your favor that, and I'm willing to take a risk, but not that much of a risk.
On your staff.
And so literally, someone that's 65% of your cost is 65% of your cost for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a reason. You get what you pay for.
Yes.
So I'm willing to pay for the best to get the best. And, that's what I feel we did. But it's interesting to see even our own journey is a lesson to that question, because, it's both. A true partnership is every day is not roses, right? There's moments that you hit bottom. And when you hit bottom together and you grow out of it, like to me, those are the connections that last forever.
I agree. I think, and discomfort is the catalyst of growth. If you
100%.
Glad you told that story, by the way.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to your career for a minute, because you gave us like the 30,000 foot view of your career, but there's a lot of things you skipped over that I really like. And in this industry, things are constantly changing, whether it's the weather or events. One of the biggest things that happened to you at Disney was the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you had to run a program that I think most of us probably at least heard of. But can you talk about the
NBA bubble?
And maybe a story or two from?
Everybody has a pandemic story, and I'm always so interested in hearing them. At Disney, if you think about it as a company, we shut down every business. We weren't making movies. We weren't making TV shows. We closed in all of our retail. We shut down our theme parks. This was massive. And everybody was furloughed. And so there were very few of us left. And I was global, so, it was the whole world. And we needed cash, really. We owned ESPN, and when sports stopped, that was also a problem.
Yes.
Right?
Can I say,
right?
What am I going to do now?
So the NBA and, quite frankly, Bob Iger's office said, let's figure this out together. And this was the throes of the pandemic. Like it was the June, July, and Florida's stats was not in our favor. And so 3 of us were asked to work directly with the NBA to create what's affectionately known as the NBA bubble. And we had 6 hotels that we brought back and opened. And as we opened those hotels with training only and solely around safety. So it really wasn't about high touch service, because you didn't want that. It wasn't about personalization, because I didn't need to get near you, right? It literally was about how do we stay safe in an environment. And we knew that if one person on either side got COVID, all bets were off, right? The season was off. And so The NBA did a few things really smart where they took the top seeded teams and those were placed in the hotels that would have the finals. So there wasn't as much movement. But essentially, if you were out, you were moved out, and the winners then would move hotels as other teams and got closer and closer, which to Coronado, which was the end game because of its size. But we converted 16 ballrooms into basketball courts. We created a harness system where one of the housemen could actually put this bristle brush and then a mop feature, and they would run it across the courts. The NBA still use it to this day where the system's in place, but we invented that for the NBA. We had to figure out how we were going to ensure that when the athletes weren't playing, and they played probably 4 hours a day, that left 20 hours. I've never stocked the lake with so much fish in my life, but everybody left. They're going, we are great fishermen. I'm like, okay. The wine collections, the coffee bars that are now NBA businesses today, right? We were able to help seed those and do those. I will tell you, I learned to drive a forklift because I know
tool.
because all the mattress factories were shut down, and I had to, get 167, I think, really long mattresses for the 7 feet guys, and so we paid for Orlando Mattress to reopen for us. But they stocked it on their shelves, and so then they didn't have anybody there, so we had to learn to drive a forklift to actually get the mattresses down. We made the beds ourselves, right? With our carpenters that were on. This was such crazy times. It's hard for me to even conceptualize what was going on there. But it was, everybody was tested every day. We did not have to live inside the bubble. NBA, of course, did. And the bubble was made not really so that people couldn't get in, but it's also so they couldn't get out. That was right. Because if they did, the chances of catching COVID were pretty high. Yeah. And so again, all bets would be off.
Wow. From the lobster shack to repairing the NBA.
Yeah. Listen, think about all the restaurants that we had 6 feet between tables. Teams could only dine for themselves, but they needed optionality or else they'd be really bored, and their mental health was getting impacted from not seeing anybody on the outside. They could only speak to people within their teams until you got up to the finals. I mean, it was, you've got to actually feel for the athletes too, because it was pretty harsh life in there. We made it comfortable. The accommodations were great, but you miss your friends, your family. You're watching the news. It's horrible, right? And you're living in this place that has inherent risk because there's so many people involved. So it's just a different way to spend the pandemic. I look and go, the pandemic was the hardest point of my whole career. I was lucky that I remained working at the same time. We were banking, 100-hour weeks for a year. And so literally that part of it was, I wouldn't ever repeat it. I look and I go, okay, right? Sometimes people will say, you know what? I am grateful for the break that I got to take. I got to slow down a little bit. I sped up. I came out of the damn pandemic exhausted. So, good question. And I've got to just tell you, it was literally, I love doing it. I was with a guy named Farron Kelly, who runs the sports organization for Disney, and Marianne Smith, who ran the catering operation for Disney. So think about it. Every team came with their own expectations, their own menus. And for every single NBA team, we were doing custom meals, 3 meals a day plus 2 snacks on a daily basis. It was just a grind. But look, we made good money off of it. We brought a bunch of people back to work, about 1,800 people back to work. So literally, it was the right thing all around.
That's awesome. Does anyone, please, Gareth?
As a woman of leadership and
you've come through the ranks
Yeah.
to what we'd all agree is a great level of success. What advice would you give to other young women who would watch this and listen to your conversation?
You know, first of all, there's a couple thing I would say. People always want me to talk about this, but the true answer is I was the only female around the table for a really long time. Interestingly enough, I was the only female at Ritz-Carlton for a long time. I wasn't the first, I was the second. But the first got married, had a baby, and bolted on me, right? I'm like 6 months in. But Mary Beth Lollilam was, she was the first female in Paris that ran a luxury hotel,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So she also has an incredible background. Back then, being the only woman in a room, I didn't know what was bad, what was good, what was right. Like, you know, I just was one of the guys. And so I didn't have a barometer to say this was hard or this wasn't hard because it's all I knew. So although I want to be the traditional flag waver, it's hard because I came up in a period where I just didn't understand it. What I learned later on in my career is that men are so much better knowing your worth than females are. You will actually look at 20 skills to have a job, and you'll be able to do 11. And you'll say, got this. This is me. This has my name all over it. And a woman will have 18. And a woman will say, there are 2 skills I don't have. I'm not even going to apply because I don't know how to do these 2 things. And so we need to take that leap of faith on ourselves. And the second thing that I would say to women is know your worth. I think it's something that females struggle with. And it wasn't until, much later in my career that I started knowing mine. So I would say those are the big 2 things. I'm speaking at this conference. I'm the keynote at this conference called Fearless something or other in October. And literally knowing your worth is what I'll be speaking about to that group.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Please, Ellie.
So you mentioned when you were sort of considering Alliance as a vendor,
Mhm.
you made a few calls to people in the industry and got the feedback that we were a vendor to go with. Was there any constructive criticism or kind of snippets that you feel would be helpful for us as a sales team to know that it would be useful for us to use to sell ourselves to future prospective customers, or to be aware of to maybe shift in terms of the partnerships or
I think people would tell me that it was harder than they anticipated. That wasn't because of you. I just think the project work was harder. Again, as operators, we don't understand the back end, right? Like we just understand the output. So they would say it's harder and sometimes it took longer. That just kind of is what it is, right? So I don't think,
right?
I don't think you can do anything about that. But those were the only things that people said. And I just think that's a normal course. Like, I don't think anybody would say they're not my partner because I think everybody inherently gets that it's going to be harder and it's probably going to take a little bit longer. At least from what you initially think. Like in my world, I go, oh, this should be done in 2 weeks. Right? Like, I mean, that's my expectation, which is crazy. What else?
Annie? Stuart?
Maybe a slightly more personal question.
Yeah.
I think you might have answered it a little bit a minute ago, but I guess with everything you've done in terms of, going back to the early days of the first hotel, then getting all the way up to sort of, the Elizabeth Mullins, president of this wonderful place. What would you kind of go back and tell the first day of the first hotel, Elizabeth Mullins, after all this?
Oh my God. I would say you picked the right career, sister. This is it. I would say, you're about to go into this phase where you're raising your hand for everything. Don't stop doing that. Keep doing that. I was pretty fearless as, my 20s. So, getting off the plane in Hong Kong and knowing no one wasn't a big deal. But if you think about it, there was no internet. There wasn't even a cell phone. There was nothing right back then. And so literally you were on your own going into these countries and figuring it out. And I would just say, it's okay because you're going to figure it out. So all of these things. I would also say, you know, I used to say in those years, people would say, "What do you want to do? Like, where do you want to go with this career?" And I used to say, "I want to be a general manager." And people would go, "Really? Maybe you better get different career goals because, you know, there's only one of those at each property. Like, you're not going to be a general manager." And I'd be like, "No, I'm going to be a general manager." I actually didn't understand there was anything above that. And so I would also probably tell my young self, think bigger, right? Because otherwise you end up falling into that stuff instead of planning for it. So, yeah, great question.
Yeah. If there is something from a hospitality mindset that we can take away as a sales team, that's like a good tool, you think, for us. Can you think of one that you can give us?
So I think we started there, and that's personalization. And so know the person you're speaking to. Take that extra moment, look them up on LinkedIn or Google them or whatever, but know the person that you're speaking to. You can actually tell a lot just by that step. And then you can tailor the conversation at least a little bit to who that person is and what they might be thinking, right? So I think that's always really, really important. You know, I'll come into a room or join a call, and it's never to be just about me, but if at least part of it is speaking my language, that's helpful, right? That's helpful to understand that, because when you're speaking to the president of a hotel company, the person does want to know what tomorrow looks like, not just what next Tuesday looks like. And so being able to actually speak to that audience is really important.
Thank you. Any other questions? Elizabeth Mullins, thank you so much for spending time with us. We are so excited about this partnership. And before you go, I have a gift for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, amazing.
So I warn you, I traveled on the Bright Line, and my bag is going to be a bit messed up. And
The Bright Line's the best.
But I do love it. It connects our community. So you were at the Ritz-Carlton as a young child with your father. So on behalf of us here, and because there's a connection to England, this is a teapot for visiting Brighton in Hampshire.
Amazing.
And this is a little vintage teapot from Brighton.
Thank you.
And of course, it wouldn't be complete without, as my friends here love, tea.
Oh,
Okay.
amazing.
And
We tend to throw it in the harbor, but you know.
and 250 years. And chocolate, of course.
Oh, amazing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll lead us kind of up here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And by the way, thank you all for being our partner and helping us at Evermore. We look forward to the partnership, but we also really look forward to you helping us skip the line, to leapfrog, to be best in class. And so we welcome your feedback along the way so we can get just there. And listen, I am passionate advocates for my partners, so you can count on me to do that for you too.
Thank you. Thank you so
All right.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.